first scene of the book, I based that on what happened to me in Bigfoot. In the story, it's a bear. But I wanted to capture that terrifying moment when I thought for sure that I was going to be ripped to shreds. So the bear comes and leaves, and the hero stands up, sees his body lying on the ground, and after the momentary confusion, he takes off into the sky and discovers strange powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. And as he's out flying around, he stumbles upon a terrorist plot to destroy Boston, America's cradle of freedom. So he has to ignore the odds and put his life on the line to stop these terrorists from destroying the entire city. It's pretty cataclysmic attack. They wipe out the entire city and kill 2 million people in the story there. I was nearing the end of the book. I've been writing about these terrorists for a couple of years. And it was before Osama was Osama anybody. So on 9/11 that morning, my girlfriend called me up. I was driving into Boston to go to work at the Prudential Center there, a tall glass building. And she said, "Happy birthday." Thank you. She said, "Something terrible has happened." So when she told me what happened, I just had this wave of, I don't know, foreknowledge or whatever you want to call it, but it was very much a moment. I'm sure everybody remembers where you were on that morning. But I had the feeling that this book was going to be more than just an adventure novel. This was going to be something that would raise awareness about the out-of-body experience, and it would also, there's a lot of patriotism in the book too. I consider myself a patriot, and I'm from the Midwest. I've been in Boston 20 years and love living there, and it's very special to me. And I take my freedom very seriously. I know at what cost it came. So these are the themes in the book. It's the out-of-body experience, the cost of our freedom. There's tragedy and triumph, hero and heroine. But mainly it is my way of introducing controversial subject matter to mainstream people in the hopes that they won't go, "Wow, this is crazy." "Oh, this is neat. That's what I'm looking for." People emailing, saying, my mother died and I was having trouble dealing with it, and I read the book. So there is tragedy in there. That helped me, and I understood. The main reward for me is to help people that are having a tough time here. And if I can help somebody deal with a loss or understand why they're here, then that makes it all worth it for me. So, has anybody here had an out-of-body experience? What happened to you, man?
I don't go too far. I have groups of people that come get me.
Yes. Yep.
I'm afraid to go by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've talked to a lot of people that say they're lying there, and they feel like there's two people on each side of them, and they're lifting them out of their body. Sometimes they're too scared, they don't, or other times they say, "Yeah, they lifted me out, I was bouncing off the ceiling, and then I was back in my body." Last year there was the girl that said she was lying in bed and her arms were under the covers and she raised her arm. It was a ghost, her arm, but she was looking at her hand. So she was partially out. So are there any questions
Have any advice for people who are trying to have out-of-body experiences but just can't get out? I've tried, like, for a long, long time, and I just can't. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, well, it's funny because as we grow into adults, I don't know, a lot of you probably have kids, especially babies. Babies are going out of body all the time. They just came from there. They were just there. Next, you know, they decided to come here to try out this school. Next thing you know, they're in a hospital crying, going, what the hell did I get myself into? And kids, like when I was the kid, just very innocent. And society has not trained us to be, you know, fearful of this. Or, it's normal for kids, but it's harder for adults. And the technique I would use to go into the trance, because you put your body in suspended animation, I guess is how you would say it. I'd be lying on my back, and you want your feet or your head to be pointing, you want to be on a north-south axis with the earth. It's a polarity thing where, you know, your soul body is made up of pure energy. And the whole spirit world, it's all about energy. And if you are east to west for some reason, it makes it hard for you to get out. So you want to be lying, put your bed on a north-south axis. And the trick is to keep your mind awake. Oftentimes you'll be saying, okay, I want to try this. Next thing you know, you're sleeping. Experiment over. But keeping your mind awake as your body falls into that trance. And when you get to that point where you're between being awake and being asleep, you're looking for this vibrational effect to come into play. Wherever it starts, for me it started in my toes. Maybe that's because that's the farthest point from my heart. I think it was the blood, your heartbeat is slowing down, excuse me, and you know, the blood's slowing in your veins, and I think the tingling is caused from that. But it's a warm, pleasant feeling. And if you can get the vibrations going, then you're more than halfway there. They'll eventually spread throughout your body, and once they leave, you're good to go. Overcoming that fear factor, though, is really tough. I have it too, and I should know better than to be afraid. But you know, I grew up, and I'm an adult, and I've got that fear barrier firmly in place. Yeah, well, good luck to you. Yes.
Yeah. One possible suggestion that could help a little bit. Is when you're resting, you know, obviously you control your breathing a little, but then try to visualize what you look like if you are looking at yourself from the ceiling. Okay, and as you do that, try to make the image on the bed more two-dimensional, and where you're coming from more three-dimensional, and then imagine more what you would feel like if, rather than on the bed imagining being on the ceiling, you were on the ceiling imagining the person on the bed.
Yeah, that brings to mind, there was another technique that would launch me onto the astral plane, and that, from books I've read, they call it the dream of knowledge. When you're lying in bed, you're dreaming, your subconscious is dreaming, and you are awake in the dream.